Okay, all right. Welcome everybody again. Time for my my talk today. But before I begin my talk, I want to give out a couple shout outs. The first shout out I want to give is to Reverend Tony Ponticello. Yay! Yay! Reverend Tony is handling the audio today. It's not what he usually does, and he's taking it on, and everything's still organized. And Reverend Lucas and Reverend the Love Brother Steve Avera have just made sure that they came in and filled in, and Reverend Deuce Alfie, of course, is always doing her thing. So thank you, everyone, for doing that. Yay! Aren't we just great? I also want to give a shout out to San Francisco. Today is the Folsom Street Fair. Whoa. And, you know, it's kind of what San Francisco is all about. It's, the Folsom Street Fair celebrates people in all their different sexual expressions and gender identities and their choices that they're making with consent. And some of it's done in a very public manner. And it's just, you know, it's like San Francisco, right? San Francisco, I think, has the vibe of kind of live and let live. And it's the city of St. Francis, and just everybody tries to get along. So, and I will be there later on, and also Reverend Roxy and Patrick are also down there, I think. And
they're at the spanking booth.
Yes, they are at the spanking booth. I wasn't going to get that explicit, Reverend Tony, but you went there, okay? There you go. Okay.
Yeah, spanking
now I'm a little red, okay? All right, that's okay. All right, so, but let's get into my talk. So my talk for today, making hard decisions. Not really that hard. You know, sometimes when I come up with these talks, I come up with the idea, I get the inspiration, and then I, you know, put it down for a couple days and I come back to it. And I always have to go to my email, into my send email, and say, now what am I talking about again today? And I do that, and it's kind of funny because I have the general idea, but I'm one of those people that's like, you know, in your workplace, I'm annoying because I'm the idea guy. I'm the guy that comes up with the new way of thinking about something or doing about something, but then I want somebody else to kind of implement it because I'm not as strong on the details sometimes. But I'm getting better at that. The Holy Spirit's helping with that. The Course in Miracles in today's reading that I read actually says this. It says that decisions are continuous. And what I love about that statement, and so much of what I love about the Course in Miracles, is that, you know, it's an obvious statement, but have you ever really thought about that? Have you ever really thought in your life that, you know, we're making decisions all the time, right? All the time. And really, are we making decisions or are we making judgments? We're making judgments, you know, like right now. Like, do you really like Reverend Peter's 70-ish Hawaiian t-shirt?
Oh, I do.
Reverend Tony does. So does my, one of the gentlemen that I'm dating. He also liked it too. But you know, we all have these impressions, right? We're making these decisions, these judgments all the time. And you know, and the Course in Miracles is just like this, right? I don't know how you couldn't, as an outsider, even if you were a non-spiritual person or non-religious person, if you didn't read this book, how you can't say to yourself, my God, the teachings of this book have to be coming from another dimension, another plane, you know? And of course, those of us study the Course, we know that it was channeled through Helen Schuckman, but it's just profound in what we kind of look at. So my talk for today is just kind of like something that it's based on something I've been really trying to do more in my life lately, which is use in my morning practice, besides doing the healing prayer that Reverend Tony has, the initiative that he started on that, is also to do these rules of decision and trying to apply them. And I recently had some situations in my life where I had to make what in the world would appear to be some really hard decisions. Now, A Course in Miracles says, in Lesson 138, that heaven is a decision I must make, right? Heaven is a decision I must make. So what does that really mean? Does that really mean that we're in heaven, like in a state of mind in heaven? Well, yeah, it does, actually. That when we choose with spirit, with the guidance of Jesus or whatever your belief in the source and the perception of the source is, yes, you can have that peace of mind. But it does say it's a choice or a decision that you must make. So let me give you a little background about the situation that I had that I realized that if it had been many years ago, I would have come from a different place. So here it is. It has to do with softball. And I know you're sitting there, everyone's thinking, you know, Peter, you're about to turn 53 years old and you're still playing softball? Well, yeah, I'm still playing softball. Hey, Reverend David Thornton is older than me and he's still singing rock and roll, so why can't I still play softball? But what happened is that now, well, you know, this is what they did. Last year I tried to retire from softball, and then Reverend Vincent, who's the manager of the team, and another guy that's on the team made me coach of the new team. So I couldn't retire, I had to be a coach. And when you're a coach, you sometimes you make decisions which affect other people, right? And it seems like in my life, I have a lot of these circumstances. I'm also the head of a department, of a large special education department in San Francisco. I oversee, 200 students with disabilities and 14 teachers and 30 paraprofessionals, blah, blah, blah. So, when you get in that position, you have to make a lot of decisions, and it impacts people. And, I also am the CMC, the board of directors, and now I'm coach. So I have, apparently in somewhere I chose to be in this leadership role. And this is what I've learned over time, is that over time, if you practice A Course in Miracles, the decisions become easier, even if in the world they appear to be harder. So this is what happened this year. We had a new softball team. The name of our softball team is the San Francisco Fury. And we play in the San Francisco Gay Softball League. Most of the members of the team are gay, but not everyone is. We have also some fellow heterosexual guys that play on our team as well. And this year, we were basically a newly formed team. We had a core of 2 teams and we put them together. And beginning of the year, we started out pretty good. We were 3-1. So it looked like our new team was going to be a successful venture, and we were all pretty positive about that. Well, after that, we only won 1 game. And we ended up our season 4-12. Okay, but in our season, it's like, okay, that's not so good, right? But it's our first year, all that, so we're gonna take a look at it. But the other thing that's kind of interesting is that we play in a very competitive division, and because San Francisco is such a big league, we actually still qualified for the World Series. That's our national tournament that we play in, and hundreds of teams go. In our particular division, there were 31 teams that went. So that was just a couple weeks ago in Portland, Oregon. We played in that World Series, and guess what our record was? 0-6. We didn't win 1 game, although we did come close. And so that was a good thing. But so we didn't have a good season. And so what happened is that when you play in competitive leagues and you play with competitive people, when they don't win, they're not happy. Okay, they're kind of not happy. And now those of us that study metaphysics and spiritual, we have perspective. The older guys have some perspective, but it was hard for a lot of people to be in that situation. So afterwards, we have 3 teams in the league that we oversee and manage, and that includes myself, Reverend Vincent, and this other friend of ours, Mike. And so we met one night after the World Series, and we met to discuss what we were going to do with our team, because our team particularly had an unsuccessful year. And what we determined is that we were basically going to have to let 5 of the players on the roster go. And it was really hard. Particularly one of the guys had been on the team for, with Reverend Vincent, they were the longest serving players from different names of the team, but they were the core of the team for over 20 years. So it was really going to be challenging. But we sat, and we talked about it, and we made these decisions. And of course, when you make the decisions, yeah, it's a little hard, but the harder part is when you have to communicate the decisions, right? And so I just remember that my guidance was, hey, yeah, these decisions are hard, and it was a little difficult, and you were calling people who, in some parts, the reason that they weren't on the team wasn't always because of their performance, but it was also related to character. In other words, they did some things on the team that were negative influences, or they rubbed people the wrong way. And in a team game, it's hard to have that because I know us as maybe spiritual students of A Course in Miracles would see it as a healing opportunity. Some folks on that level, in the level of the world sometimes, don't necessarily always see it from that perspective. So I had to make these phone calls, and I made these phone calls, and my prayer beforehand was basically just I don't see these brothers. They were all men, so I can say brothers. I don't see these brothers as being guilty or not, holy children of God. It's just that we still live in this practical world, and if you are playing in a competitive league and you're not being a good team player by your actions, and if you're not performing to a certain level, then that means that you need to play at a level where you're playing, or you need to maybe learn a lesson that you need to be a better, teammate. Kind of like, don't we learn that in kindergarten? We have to learn to be respectful and share things and be nice, So I made these phone calls, and I tried to be as kind and as direct and transparent as I could with all of these folks. And what I remember was, in some of the conversations I felt went, I felt like I did the best I could. And I feel like I did it guided under the Spirit. I wasn't blaming. I affirmed what they had done in terms of contributions to the team. And yet, at the same time, I really felt that Spirit was telling us as a collective that, it was time for a change for these guys and for us. And so that's what happened. And what I remember about this situation is that, for some of these people, I'm still going to have, I think I will probably have follow-up conversations, and I'm hoping that they'll be healing. But what I remember is that as a Course in Miracles student, that I had a much different perspective now. Like, as I said, a few years back, I don't think I could have made these decisions. I don't think I could have been the coach. I don't think that I could have made the decisions in a way that I did, because I would have been I know myself, I would have been felt too guilty. How could I, call these folks and tell them that they were no longer part of the team when they were emotionally invested. They love playing softball, they love being around the guys. It's a really tight-knit group when you do these kinds of things. So it wasn't easy. But the teachings of A Course in Miracles made it much easier for me, because I knew a couple things. I knew, number one, that nothing happens in the dream without a purpose. And if this was our decision, if this was Spirit's decision, that I felt that was the right thing, then it was going to be the right thing for them, even if it was going to be a healing lesson for them as well. And the truth of the matter is, oftentimes, it's the same thing that happens in our own lives, doesn't it? Doesn't sometimes, I can remember back in 1999, I was teaching at a Catholic school. And it was my 10th year teaching in the Catholic school back in New Jersey. And I was given a layoff notice in the spring. And oh my God, I thought that was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. Here I was going to lose my job. You think, one thing about teaching, you think you're never going to lose your job, because there's never enough teachers, you don't think you're going to lose your job. And I lost my job, and boy, did I go into a tailspin around that. I was fearful, I was really resentful, I was angry, and so on and so forth. But you know what? If I hadn't lost that job, I'm sure I would still be at that school today. Because I'm kind of like a creature of habit. And I like that routine and that kind of security. And as a result of me losing that job, essentially, 6 months later, I was living in San Francisco. And I had always said that if I ever, because I had a friend out here, if I had ever moved out to San Francisco, I knew the Community Miracle Center was there. I had been in the Castro, and I passed by it, and I said, I'm going to take that class. I saw the classes advertised, and I was going to become a community miracle. I was going to, become a minister here, or at least study the Course in Miracles, because at that time in my life, I would read the book, and I couldn't get it, or I got depressed doing the lessons. I was like, what do you mean there's nothing, I'm not there, my hand isn't there, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I wasn't getting it. So, one of the most painful things that happened to me in my professional life was actually one of the best things that happened to me. And with the Course in Miracles, I think that as you go through it, it really works with our belief system, right? Like, we can deliver the hard news sometimes to people in a loving way, number one. We can also still, in our own minds, not feel guilty about it so that we don't deliver it in a way that kind of gives them the ability to kind of make excuses and, kind of get out of it, right? I mean, we can just do it in as loving a manner as we can. And we can see that no matter what happens, we're going to be okay and they're going to be okay. So this is what we do. As I said, when you're making these kinds of decisions, what happens with the Course in Miracles is that I think gradually it does change our beliefs from egoic beliefs to more of the spiritual beliefs. This comes from also lesson 138, Heaven is the Decision I Must Make. It says, these mad beliefs can gain unconscious hold of great intensity and grip the mind with a terror and anxiety so strong that it will not relinquish its idea about its own protection. So you see, whenever we make a decision or don't make a decision and we still find ourselves in fear or guilt or anxiety, it's at the level of belief. It's at the level of the ego. And for me, what my experience has been is that I'm able to make decisions that impact myself or impact other people much more lovingly now, because the Course in Miracles has lessened the terror in my mind. Now, do I still have terror in my mind? Of course I do. And I still have guilt in my mind. But as the Course in Miracles says, the more we practice it, the more we're released from this reservoir, if you will, this bounty of guilt and fear. And then we're better able to let go of these old ideas, and we're better able to embrace the new. So the old Peter was much more concerned about making people happy, was much more concerned about making sure that they didn't get angry with me and weren't in conflict with me. And the new Peter realizes that's not always the case. There's a line in the Course that says, crucifixion is where redemption is laid. I'm paraphrasing that. And what that means is that, when we are feeling bad, when we're going through the hard times, that's when we practice the Course in Miracles. Because that's the healing opportunity. If we weren't ever having hard times, we won't even have access to those beliefs, because we don't even realize they're working on us. Right? So crucifixion is a part of our healing process in the Course in Miracles. And that's what we have to look forward to. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about these rules for decision, because I think they're really cool. And one of the things it said in the reading today was this. Think about the kind of day you want. Mm-hmm. Think about the feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, the things that you would experience. And I've been doing this a lot lately, every day with my lesson. And what do I say? I say, hey, I want to experience love today. I want to experience forgiveness today. I want to experience more gratitude today. More of those feelings. I want to have healing moments. And what has happened is that most of the work day I'm at work, and I'm having these holy instants at work. I was helping like I said, my background is special ed, and I was helping a general ed teacher. Her son is having a disability experience, and I really helped her problem solve. And she was so grateful, and she was so, that I got tingly things down my, I got those tingly things down my spine because she was so appreciative. We hugged it out, you know. And this was like one of those, she's an English teacher, you know, one of those kind of tough old English teachers, you know. And here she just turned into this mushy, you know, warm lady, and, you know, and now she's, and the other thing that happened is that she used to be kind of a tough one on students with disabilities, like not really compassionate and empathetic. Now she's coming to me all the time. You need to test this student. They have a disability. You need to get them help, you know. So she's totally done this 180. But part of it is because also, you know, that I'm open. Like my mind is open to the miracles. I'm not sitting there judging who I think she is, you know, and with the old judgments of the past. And the other thing that I've noticed too in this situation is that, you know, in this period of my life, I'm also I'm dating a lot, and you know, I'm totally in a different place. I'm very much in a place where I want to date people. I want to get to know them. It's coming from like I'm really trying to listen to the Course in Miracles about. I'm not trying to impose conditions on them. I'm not trying to pose expectations on them, and I'm trying to keep it very open communication. And I'm just kind of being open to the experience, and so on and so forth. And you know, the thing about it is that, you know, it's been just, I just experience a lot more love. That's all I can say about it. And I've been dating a couple guys for a longer period of time, and I'm not, you know, I am telling them, like, I'm not, you know, I'm not looking for this kind of special relationship. I don't use those words, but I'm very open. I'm just being open to my guidance and my spirit. And you know, I don't get into any drama about jealousy. I don't get into their projections toward me. You know, I really, and so on and so forth. And I just now have this experience where I just have, you know, a lot of people in my life that I feel a lot of love for. You know, and that's what it is. And I'm definitely changed in the sense that I'm not coming from this place necessarily of need. You know, not that I don't have needs. That's what I don't mean that. But it's just much more like, you know, hey, if you're available and I'm available, let's do something. Let's have a good conversation. Let's have fun. You know, let's laugh. And God, I laugh so much more. I feel so much less like guilt about, you know, having to live up to some expectation of what this relationship should be and how it should look and where we should live and what kind of home we should have and how much money we should have and blah, 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 blah. You know, all that is kind of gone. And now it's just about being in the moment. And, you know, without A Course in Miracles, without having the process that The Course in Miracles puts you through, and really, you know, we talked about this before, you know, I've talked about this before. I get tired of my own things that I say all the time. But you know, that's what it's about, right? It's about living in the moment. It's about not trying, it's about as much as you can, the people that you experience, treating all the same, trying to let go of the judgments as much as you possibly can. And not that it's always there, but it's there much more. And the reason for it is because what I'm asking for from Spirit is much different than what my ego was asking of others before. And the only way that is possible. So, making decisions, or making hard decisions, really can turn out not to be as hard as we practice A Course in Miracles. Because as we practice A Course in Miracles, we gradually let go of the old beliefs, which were also judgments. And as a consequence of that, judgments bring to us a lot of those feelings of fear and guilt and terror. And as we release those, as we practice miracles, as we practice healing, and we ask for a different kind of experience, we're rewarded through our practice of A Course in Miracles, and by Jesus and by Spirit, with more love, more light, and more forgiveness. And that's my talk for today.